We're here today. My name is Mr. Teacher. How are you all doing? Today, I would be joined by a colleague. He's very well rooted in what he does. Can you introduce yours to our audience?
My name is Daddy Gross, and I would be very glad to walk you through the areas you need help. Just hit the like and state your problem on the comments section.
Today, we would do introduction to viscera of thoracic cavity. Daddy Gross. You up?
The thoracic cavity is divided into 3 compartments, which includes right and left pulmonary cavities. Bilateral compartment that contains the lungs and pleura lining membrane and occupy the majority of the thoracic cavity. And central compartment, a compartment between and completely separating the 2 pulmonary cavities which contains thoracic structures, the heart, the thoracic part of great vessels, thoracic part of trachea, esophagus, thymus and other structures.
The pleura. Each pulmonary cavity, left and right, is lined by a pleural membrane that reflects onto and also covers the external surface of the lungs occupying the cavities. During embryonic development, the lungs invaginate into the pericardioperitoneal canal, the precursor for the pleural cavities. Each lung is invested by and enclosed in a serous pleural sac that consists of 2 continuous membrane. The visceral pleura, pulmonary pleura, which covers all the surface of the lungs except at the hilum. The parietal pleura, which lines the pulmonary cavities. The pleura cavity is a space between the layers of the pleura. It contains a capillary layer of serous pleural fluid. This fluid lubricates the pleura surface and allows the layers to slide over one another. The surface tension of the pleura fluids provides the cohesion that keeps the lungs' surfaces in contact with the thoracic wall. The visceral pleura is continuous with the parietal pleura at the hilum of the lungs, where structures making up the root of the lungs enter and leave the lungs. Now Daddy Gross would talk very much on the parietal pleura.
As Master Teacher said, the parietal pleura lines the pulmonary cavities, thereby adhering to the thoracic wall, mediastinum and diaphragm. It is thicker than the visceral pleura, the subdivision of the parietal pleura. The parietal pleura is called based on its location, thus have the following: costal pleura, diaphragmatic pleura, mediastinal pleura and cervical pleura. Now let's go into detail of each of the subdivision of the parietal pleura. The costal part of the parietal pleura, costovertebral pleura, covers the internal surface of the thoracic wall. It is separated from the internal surface of the thoracic wall by endothoracic fascia. Hope you're catching the joke. Did I say joke? Yes, you'll hear me. Gross is a simple course. Don't punch me when you see me for saying that. The mediastinal part of the parietal pleura covers the lateral part of the mediastinum, the partition of tissues and organs separating the pulmonary cavities in their pleural sac. It is continuous superiorly into the root of the neck as cervical pleura. It is continuous with the costal pleura anteriorly and posteriorly. Also, with diaphragmatic pleura inferiorly. At the hilum of the lungs, the mediastinal pleura reflects laterally into the roots of the lungs to become continuous with the visceral pleura, diaphragmatic part of the parietal pleura. It covers the superior, thoracic, surface of the diaphragm on each side of the mediastinum, except for the costal attachment, its origin, where the diaphragm fused to the pericardium. A thin, more elastic layer of endothoracic fascia, the phrenicopleural fascia, connects the diaphragmatic pleura with the muscular fiber of the diaphragm. The cervical pleura forms a cup-like dome, pleura cupula, over the apex of the lungs and reaches its summit 2 to 3 superior to the level of the medial third of the clavicle, at the level of the neck of the first rib. The cervical pleura is reinformed by a fibrous extension of the endothoracic fascia, the suprapleural membrane, Simpson fascia. Relation of the cervical pleura. Anteriorly, subclavian artery and scalenus anterior muscle. Posteriorly, neck of the first rib and structure passing in front of it. Laterally, scalenus medius muscle. And medially, great vessels of the neck. How is the lecture so far? Hope it's not boring.
I told you Daddy Gross is good at what he does. We would conclude the lecture by looking into pleural recess. The space between the parietal pleura and visceral pleura is only a potential space and is filled with a film of serous fluid. However, Area of pleura reflection on the diaphragm and mediastinum. The space between the parietal pleura and visceral pleura is generally expanded. These expanded region of the pleural cavity is called pleural recesses. These are essentially for the expansion of the lungs during deep inspiration. The pleural recesses include costodiaphragmatic recess, right and left, and costomediastinal recess, right and left. The costodiaphragmatic recess lies inferiorly between the costal pleura and diaphragmatic pleura. Vertically, it measures about 5 centimeters. It extends to the 8th to 10th ribs along the mid-axillary line. Costomediastinal recess lies interiorly, behind the sternum and the costal and mediastinal pleurae, particularly in relation to the cardiac notch of the left lungs. We come to the end of the lecture. Hope you enjoyed it. Daddy Grows, any advice of our audience?
Not much to say, Mr. Teacher. But thank you for joining us. Believe in yourself, there's not limitations to what you can do.
Let's do this again next time. Multiple choice questions would be coming down during the weekend. Don't miss joining. And please subscribe and